Welcome to Rise and Shine. Here it is, right there. I am your host, Alissa Bakar, the consultress. I'm here with my good friend, Will Villa. Welcome to the show, man. What's going on?
Thanks, Alyssa. How you doing? It's just another day here in Pittsburgh. Woke up, our door wasn't opening. We have one of those punch key codes, and it decided not to work this morning, and we didn't have a key on site, so I had to drive a half an hour this morning to go get one,
Oh, are
without
those like
breaking
the
into the office.
are those like the battery operated ones? So when the
Yep,
battery dies, you can't get in?
yep, yep.
It's like a false sense of security, isn't it? I know the
It
codes I
really
can
is.
get anytime versus I have the key on my key ring, I can get in anytime. Like
Correct.
when tech becomes your nemesis.
Yeah, it was craziness. And we have a whole master lock system for all of our rentals out here, so I really don't know why we haven't put one up yet.
Uh-huh. So let's dig a little deeper. Tell people around here who you are and what you're up to, Mr. All of Our Rentals. Give us some
Yes.
backdrop.
Yeah, so my name is Will Villa. I'm originally from New Jersey. I live in Pittsburgh, PA currently. As we're building our rental portfolio out here, my mother and my business partner Brooke and I all got into business in real estate about 8 years ago now. Where we started flipping homes in New Jersey. We bought a couple rentals in New Jersey. Then we expanded to Baltimore with a different group of partners. That didn't work out. We still have a couple rentals there. Then we expanded to Jacksonville, and then we found partners in Pittsburgh. We've been in Pittsburgh for a little over 3 years now. And myself, I moved out here last July. I quit my W-2 job and became full-time real estate investor. And since then, we were managing property like for ourselves as well as for other investors. We were not well suited for property management. And about 6 months into me quitting my job and overseeing this, we got rid of property management because we realized it wasn't our shtick. We weren't good at it, and we were doing a disservice not only to us but to our investors. Um, on top of that, since last year and continuing, I've been managing the rehabs and the construction. So that's pretty much what our niche is. We have a little over 250 rentals in the Pittsburgh area. And it's just constant turnovers and flipping and then trying to find more to keep buying.
Yeah, right after my own heart, you guys. I think I followed suit probably about a year and a half after you did. Moved out this way, started investing in the Pittsburgh marketplace. So your company and your business partners, cohorts, colleagues, and mom have been a great big light for me, guiding the way, kind of saying, hey, we already skinned our knees a bunch. We kind of already know the ropes around here. Let us show you. So I'm very, very appreciative for the fact that you've got those experiences in doing the flips and investing in a place where it didn't work. Because sometimes I feel like when people look to folks for advice or expertise, they almost want to see someone who has that polish of perfection and like they've never made a mistake. And I think that that's kind of a little bit backwards. I want to know that people have gone head first and made mistakes, because if you listen to a couple of episodes ago, Elle Bright and I were talking about, the fact that we are our failures and our progress forward. So what have you learned in the process of transitioning from a W-2 and a W-2 and a construction manager into what you've kind of evolved into, and share with us a little bit, what that evolution arc kind of looks like?
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to take it one step further back, just because I completely agree with you. We are our failures, and um, I mentioned briefly that we started in Baltimore for a little while. Brooke, myself, Andrea, my mother, and a couple of other partners started flipping houses in Baltimore, and those partnerships didn't work out for one reason or another. Um, so, Brooke and I took over. We continued flipping the homes after the partnership fell apart, and we made sure that they were, stabilized and rentable, so that at least we weren't losing our shirts and we were able to pay back our investors from there. And then when we came out to Pittsburgh to start this other partnership, um, we had met, and I don't think they'd mind me bringing up their names. So Brooke is the finance partner. I'm the construction manager. Brian Fine is our marketing and yeah, he's our marketing guy. Andrea is our networking, and Ami Peixoto is our licensed broker of record. He's our acquisitions guy. He knows the whole Pittsburgh area. He's been out here for 20 years. But what brought us together wasn't the fact that we had this knowledge, which was a huge plus, right? We all have this different knowledge of things and experiences, but we've actually all been part of a failed partnership where we've been slighted by our ex-partners in one way or another. And that's kind of what brought us together, is that we all have been through it. We all know what to look, not to look for, but know what to expect. And it kind of allowed all of us to come together on equal foot on an equal footing, right? You're going to always have to find commonality between your partnerships. So that's actually what started our business, was meeting all these people out here where they had also been through failed partnerships, and it worked out really well, that we were all looking for the same thing. Then moving
Oh,
forward, what
can
you're,
I just time you out there?
yeah,
Failures highlights what you actually are looking for. Go
what,
ahead.
like, you're asking what I'm looking for
Oh,
in a,
nope. The act of failing, I'm just summarizing for
oh,
them.
okay,
Like the act of failing actually highlights that which you prefer. So
correct,
sometimes we have no effing clue what we want, and we just think we want whatever it is we're doing or going towards at that point. And when we hit that bump of failure, it's an illuminating moment. It allows
yeah,
us to see what we actually do want, because something didn't go as planned or something didn't go the way we would have liked for it to go, and we learn. So I think that's humongous. So you guys all failed in partnerships. By the way, remind me to tell you the story of how my husband was the answer to all of my failed relationships before him. So back to business partnership though, for real.
no, you're fine.
Go ahead.
Oh,
So you
so
guys
yeah, I mean,
all failed and found each other because you're like, oh, we're all looking for the same thing and we all know what we don't want out there.
yeah, and it wasn't that, I'm sure a couple of my current business partners will disagree with this statement, but it's not because the other partners were bad people. Although in one sense, I think there was one that wasn't a good person. But the rest, it didn't work out, and it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that we weren't built for each other. Um, so anyway, what I learned from that, other than the partnership aspect of it, is contracts are key, um, because the contracts are not for the good times; it's for the bad times. Um, so make them during the good times, so you're all on equal footing, you're all in a good mind space. That way, when bad time, things hit the fan, you're not acting on emotion. You're just acting on what you had already discussed ahead of time. This is what we're going to do when this happens.
Mm.
Um, so that was one big thing. And then you had brought up, and that what started this portion of the conversation was my transition from a W-2 job to this. So my W-2 job, I worked for a facilities maintenance company, where we managed and operated, uh, it was a Fortune 500 company where we managed and operated office buildings. And specifically, I started in accounting and finance, and I moved to an operational role where I was overseeing New York State, Southern Connecticut, and New Jersey company, where we were overseeing K through 12 and higher education schools for cleaning, engineering, landscaping. Um, so I had a general idea of the project management coming into this. Um, and I worked with, actual construction portions being done throughout my job. And I, grew up as a handyman with my father. So I had the general contractors, and, as I went through life, I just learned more and more and more. So when I came here, it was just more of a management style, not so much that I knew construction, but I knew how to manage people. Um, but the biggest jump for me quitting my W-2 job was just the stability of, being there's no steady paycheck in entrepreneurship, right? You might have a very huge windfall, which will last you a year compared to what you would have gotten in a W-2 job, but you need to learn how to budget that properly. You need to learn how to not just take, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000 and just spend it all. And I'm sure there's plenty of investment or, entrepreneurs out there that already understand this, and that's awesome. It just took me a while to get used to it. I grew up in a W-2 family, a W-2 job, right out of high school. I started working for the company that I was with, and I was with them for the better part of 12 years, I think, before I left. So it was just a big jump for me.
Yeah, I think that happens to all of us. Once you realize that the stability is a little bit paper thin, that your job security has a lot more to do with external factors and unpredictability than it does with your effort, your ethics, and your value. To me personally, that's why I moved into entrepreneurship. I saw that thin veil very early. And my growing up in my entrepreneurial family, they're like, you should, get good grades, go to college, become a CPA or a lawyer, because that's who makes the big bucks. And I'm like, that's nice, but nobody that I see does that. You guys are all out there like doing your own thing. And my grandfather said this saying, I'm the goddamn boss, but he wasn't. Oh, sidebar. He went into my dad's business and fired all his employees one day. And they're like at the payphone down the block, oh, your dad fired us again. So, but anyway, so here's this experience, this template that I'm like living inside of, that is retail business, and then those profits get invested into real estate. So I'm like, that's what I know. You want me to go and like try something completely different that I never heard of? All right. But at the same time, that leap out for me personally was like, all right, I'll try the W-2. I went into banking and personal finance. I got certified as a financial planner. I was in all of those, top white collar type jobs. And I realized like it didn't make me happy. It just
Yeah.
kind of like I felt like I was dying slowly. And I looked at, the should do, make money so I could have a good life versus the live life and kind of experiences the highs and lows and experience those growth points of failure. I had to get really comfortable with failure, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's not easy. And failing, especially when it comes to budgeting, like, woo, doesn't that hit you like right in the ego?
It does. It does. And I think I grew up pretty much the same way, and I kind of took those steps where you were coming from, where you were told to get a W-2 job, go into corporate America, climb the ladder, become a CPA, because that's always going to be a needed thing. I majored in accounting and finance with a minor in business intelligence. Like, I did all of the cookie cutter what you were supposed to do. I graduated college and I started studying for the CPA. And as I was an accountant, I realized I hated it. I'm good at it. I just don't like it. It's boring. I mean, I'm good at spreadsheets, but God, is it boring. Um, and that's when I switched into the more management role when I got the opportunity from my old boss, phenomenal human being, Andrew Canicati, by the way. But yeah, when he gave me the opportunity to become a manager, it was eye opening, and that then me already having started investing in real estate, life happens very quickly, and you got to just enjoy it and take, like you said, take it with the highs and lows and experience it. Because yeah, you could have a very stress-free life by having a W-2 job. Just I don't know. I don't mind the stress sometimes. Other times it gets to me. Don't get me wrong. There's been times where I've been very down. Um, but you just got to push through it and center yourself.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
So tell us
It,
about that. Tell us about like, okay, it's going to be great. It's going to be rough. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be tough. So what kind of coping mechanisms, or I would say, steadying principles have you learned that help you kind of come out of that like frenzy, oh my godness that I think most of us experience, that freak out when something bad happens or something stressful is going on. What have you learned that helps you kind of bring yourself back and reset or endure, right?
yeah. So first of all, my number one rule has always been put your head down and just work. That's typically how I get through stressful times. If I'm having a rough go of it, I put my head down and I work more. Um, my girlfriend who moved up here in March with me has seen it firsthand, where I'm not having a good go, and I will work, I don't know, until midnight just to keep my mind off of things. Um, but what really gets me out of that funk, right? So me working harder keeps me level through it, so I don't lose my mind. But what really gets me out of it, and what really is I would consider my center, is my friends and family. Um, one of my business partners, Brooke, her and I have known each other now for since 2012, so 11 years. Um, and when I graduated college and I actually started working for her at my old W-2 job, and then we started working with one another as like equal footing coworkers, and then we started the company together, or real estate together. But she's always and will always be a sister to me at this point. Um, she's helped me through things. My friends always keep me centered. From home, I have three friends and one of their little brothers. I've been friends with them since I was 4 and 5 years old, respectively. And they we talk not always, I'd say at least once a month. Sometimes more if I'm living back in Jersey, we'll meet up on the weekends, but me being out in Pittsburgh, it's hard to meet up in person. But my friends always keep me grounded and remind me of what's important in life. Um, and my family does a phenomenal job with that too. Don't get me wrong. I am not the best at communicating. Uh, I I don't reach out as much as I should to most people. Um, and that hurts me more. So when they reach out to me, it gives me the relief of, all right, they reached out to me, I've talked to them. Um, and then I kind of vent to all of them and they help me through it. My friends and family, I have a phenomenal support system. That's really what gets me through the lows. And then you had brought up the budgeting thing, because that's another big thing, right? Because just because you have support doesn't mean that you have the funds to live. I'm not talking about just having fun. I mean, you're worried about paying your car bill and your rent, whatever it may be. Um, and I talked about, you'll have some big days in entrepreneurship where you'll make a good windfall, whether you flipped a home, or just made a good sale, something. And it's important that you have a plan on what you're going to do with that money before you get it. Uh, just because you're building a rental portfolio, which is essentially going to substitute your retirement accounts, doesn't mean you should stop doing retirement accounts or stop investing in other areas, right? Diversity is so important. I still invest in stocks. Specifically, personally, I still invest in ones that shoot out a dividend, because that gives me some kind of a check quarterly. Um, and I still look for other business opportunities.
Yeah, huge, huge. So coming from the financial sector myself and talking to other real estate investors, it seems like real estate investors and financial advisors are in completely different camps very often. You have the financial advisor who's a little ticked off that he can't help his client manage their entire portfolio because they're active real estate investors and they go for deals and they do these things, and they love the asset class. And then you have the people who do it to extreme, where I think this is where you're talking about having temperance in your financial approach to your life has to come in. Is if you're like, this is something they always say in financial planning, like you have to have a well balanced and diversified portfolio. So if you have only single family rental homes in Pittsburgh and that's all you've got, that you're projecting your entire retirement account, that in and of itself is risk, right? So having other things that bring in money. I love that you are like a tempered real estate investor, because there's so many folks again who get obsessed and that's all they want to do and that they won't touch the financial markets. But I think that it's a balanced approach. Kudos to you to having a little bit of everything going on, because you're driving the bus though. I think empowerment though is one of those things that rises above the fray in terms of like the identity piece of a real estate investor. So I personally love working with real estate investors. I am one. And I find it to be like one of the places people take the most responsibility for their life and their results. So thank you first and foremost for showing that it doesn't have to be just obsession or just, totally hand it off to somebody else to manage your money. It can be a blend. And that's the temperance that I always talk about with my clients. Understand your risk tolerance and also understand what it is you want before that asset hits or that deal hits your door. Know how to quantify and qualify what it is that you're looking for. You're looking for cash flow, you're looking to shelter funds, shelter income, so knowledge is power in that way.
Yeah.
And being willing to go through the discomfort of having to figure it out, because I get stuck personally. I'm glad I have folks that help me think through things, like my husband, who allows me to just kind of say what I want and then ask questions, right? Like, what do you mean by that? And can you tell me more? And it helps me to I clarify and share exactly what it is I even mean. Because without that discourse, I find myself lost in this very, blurry, blurry land of non-clarity, which is behind me. So yeah, anyway, so the real estate investor that can temper their approach to diversifying what they're looking for, and also diversifying their approach to their financial health, I think is key. So I always teach the foundation stuff first, make sure your liabilities are covered and your cash reserves are in place, and then know what goals you're working towards. Like you had mentioned, my portfolio, I want to replace my retirement income. Can you just give me like a quick 60 seconds what that means to you?
Yeah, so it all comes down, and this is the same reason why I diversify everything, right? And why I still invest in stocks, and I still look for other opportunities and other, call it business markets. I I have a extreme distrust for most things, whether it be government um or just financial institutions. And it's not that, I'm not trying to bring politics into it, but I guess it comes down to you can't trust what anybody's ever going to do, right? So if you invest, you had brought up if you just focused in single family homes in Pittsburgh market, and that was your bread and butter. And don't get me wrong, you have an income, call it of 50,000 a month from it, whatever it is. That's awesome. But what happens if they decide to change the rules and, Pittsburgh market then plummets for whatever reason, whether they raise the taxes insurmountably where your investment makes no sense whatsoever, and now you start losing money. Or they start taking away single family homes and saying you can't rent here. Like Airbnb markets, I know are having a rough go now, where a lot of smaller cities are saying you can't do an Airbnb here. Um, it, I just don't trust that nobody has the interest of your own money and your own investments. They don't have it at heart like you do. They don't care about it like you do. And if you only focus on one thing, whether it's one type of stock or one type of real estate in one specific market, no matter what, you need to diversify. So if you want to start diversifying in different types of real estate, call it across the country or across the globe, which I know a lot of people do, that's still one way of diversifying. I just don't trust that no matter what, one thing is always going to work out. I think that it's always a revolving cycle. Um, I think there's more and more real estate investors now more than ever. And obviously there's more people in the world, so of course it's going to be more than ever. But I mean, just on a per capita, I think everybody sees the HGTV shows where you can flip a home and it'll go great, or you have all of these uh, classes for people to learn how to invest in rentals, and that's awesome. And I want more people to invest in rentals. I think it's a great opportunity, and I think it's a great source of financial freedom. Um, but eventually, just like every market, it will become saturated and potentially oversaturated, in which case you might not have that ability that you had 5 or 15 years ago, which I know is, if you had gotten into this in 2008, 2009, where you started buying rentals then, you'd probably on sitting on cloud nine right now.
Mhm.
But just like every market, right? There's peaks and pitfalls, and you got to be wary of that. And investing in one market is never a good idea in my mind.
Yeah, so diversify your approach, diversify the asset class, diversify the team that you use, like your contractors. Diversification is kind of like the word of the day here, but it creates balance. I just saw my oh wait, cheers, we got to take our mug shot. Ready?
Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go.
Nice. All right. But I
Just to
just
be clear,
saw
we have mugs here for each person in the apartment, because me and my mother and Brooke, my business partner, who are all from New Jersey, when they come up here, they have a place to stay. We all have a mug so that we know who not to touch. It's our mug.
that's right. That's my mug. Um, I watched a episode. My kids just started school again, and which is weird for me, having homeschooled for so long. But anyway, there was a Bill Nye the Science Guy episode that showed him laying on a bed of nails, and it's like he's laying there on a bed of nails, and no one nail is sticking him because his weight is distributed across all of them. That's kind of how I think of diversification. It's like if any one thing falls down, you're still pretty much set. So
I like that.
yeah, right. Lay in a bed of nails. That's how we'll end it. But anyway, I really appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge, especially coming from W-2 into real estate investing and now doing it full time. I think that's an inspiration to many. It's an inspiration to me. And I can't wait to hear in a couple months' time where you're at then. And I'd love to have you back. So for now, we will see you all next time. Thanks a million, Will, for being here.
Thank you for having me on, Alyssa. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. To all our friends out there, see you next time, same bat channel. Good night, everyone. This is your host for the evening, the Consultress. See ya.